Welcome back to another episode of Adventures with Edu-Katie. I'm your host, Edu-Katie. And as you can see, we're back in the wetland to absorb even more knowledge about these amazing habitats in Wetlands Part 2. In Wetlands Part 1, we learned all about what a wetland habitat is, we learned who lives there, and we learned ways that wetlands help us through absorbing water during flooding events and how they can help with water filtration and keeping our water clean. In Part 2, we're going to learn how wetland habitats help us along coastal wetlands by absorbing damage caused by waves. We'll also learn what you can do at home to help wetland habitats. So let's go coastal and learn what wetland habitats do in my very favorite section, Deep Science! I said Deep Science! I'm still here, guys. Let me check. Yeah, it looks like my movie magic meter ran out. Y'all are gonna have to enjoy Deep Science in the studio with Outdoor August, or outdoor recreation specialist. I'll see y'all later. Have fun in Deep Science.
Wetlands act as buffers along coastlines and other waterways. They help to absorb energy from waves and floodwaters as they move through. That prevents a lot of damage and erosion from happening to any structures or banks along those waterways. We're going to do an experiment here that shows what a habitat looks like with wetlands and without. We're going to start without. We've even got a little house here to model what it would look like for a structure on the waterway. We're going to create waves to see how the energy moves without any kind of buffer to stop it. You can see how the waves continue to move higher and higher, reaching toward our structure without anything to stop the energy. If they were to get too high, they could start to move the house off its foundations or knock it over. Now let's bring in a wetland plant, a native plant here, to put into our wetland system and see if that changes the way the energy is distributed through our wetland. You can see with our wetland plant, it's got a vast root system, and that really stabilizes the soil and absorbs water energy as it moves to and fro. This is just one small bunch of plant, but they grow in huge amounts in a native wetland. With our wetland plant now in place, you can see that our waves, the energy is being absorbed by that plant. They're not reaching nearly as close to the house or have nearly as much force as they go up our shoreline. So as you can see in our experiment between a habitat with wetlands and a habitat without, habitat with wetlands are much more protected and healthy for not only our native environment and species, but also for the people living in those areas. These wetlands act as great buffers, and in a place like Houston, also known as the Bayou City, we all know how important it is to be protected from flooding, hurricanes, and wave action. So let's go check out, back in the wetlands, all the species that call these wetlands home.
Hey guys, welcome back to the wetland habitat. Did y'all have fun with Outdoor August in the Deep Science section? Now, we always want to say don't go chasing waterfalls in wetland habitats, and that's because there are a ton of animals that you can be looking for and possibly maybe chasing just a little bit. So there are also lots of plants that live here. So I wanted to point out a few more plants, even though we learned some last time. This one right here is called pickerel weed. Right now it's winter, so this plant isn't flowering, but when it is flowering, it has lots of purple flowers that help with pollinators like bees and butterflies. We look right here, we also have a yellow swamp lily. Now, as you can see, this is the leaf and not the flower, because again, we are in winter. If you come back during summertime, you'll see large yellow flowers that come from this plant. Now, because wetland habitats are so biodiverse, they provide a lot of educational and recreational opportunities for people like you and me. So what that means is people can go fishing, they can go birding, they can observe species of plants in the wetland, they can also go kayaking. But if you're in those wetland habitats, you're actually in the habitat. So while you're there, you need to make sure that you're being responsible and respectful to the species that already call that habitat home. And that's so that way those animals can continue to have a safe place to live there, and so future people can have a nice space to go and recreate in the future. If you can't be respectful in a habitat when you're going out into it, it's probably not a good idea to go out into that habitat. Let's see what else you can do to help wetland habitats. Wetlands are amazing habitats, and in 1990 a study was done and over half of the 22 million acres of wetland had already been destroyed. And that was 32 years ago. So today, wetlands are federally protected by the Clean Water Act, and there are several things that you can actually do to help wetlands. Ask not what wetlands can do for you, ask what you can do for wetlands. One of them is by practicing leave no trace. So that means if you go out into nature, you're bringing anything with you back so it looks like you were never there. You can also participate in a cleanup project, or anytime you're out in nature, pick up trash whenever you see it. And it'll significantly help all environments, not just wetlands. The last thing that you can do to help wetlands is by visiting national and state parks. A portion of your admission goes to helping to manage and protect that land. So just by visiting a state park or a national park, you're helping to save wetlands. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for Wetlands Part 2. During this episode, we learned ways that we can help wetland habitats, how wetland habitats actually help us with coastal wetlands absorbing all of that wave action. So I hope you guys join me again for another episode of Adventures with Edu-Katie. See you later.